Hello, I'm Richard Murphy. I'm recording this on the afternoon of Sunday the 13th of December, not long after Boris Johnson and the European Union have agreed that they are going to continue talks on Brexit, despite the deadline set last week for today to be the final day of negotiation. What's going on and why? Look, both parties, of course, have an interest in securing a deal between them with regard to the future relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union. That's obvious. The whole purpose of Brexit is to basically put a spanner in the works of international trade. That's what it does. That's unavoidable. And there will be a cost to everyone as a consequence. That's true, by the way, whether there is a deal or isn't a deal. The best deal, very obviously, is to maintain the status quo that we had until 31st December a year ago, 31st of January a year ago. But there is now going to be a further opportunity for both sides to try to reach a compromise, to supposedly secure some sort of arrangement to be put in place by 1st of January, to the complete confusion of everybody else, including all those who will be impacted, from business to us personally and so on. Now, why have they done this? Well, I'm quite sure that on the part of the European Union, it's simply to make sure that it is the UK who are seen to put the final spanner in the works. They have no desire to do that at all. Why should they? After all, they want a deal. They didn't want Brexit. So they want the UK to be seen to be responsible for whatever happens. As far as the UK is concerned, of course, they want to see the EU being responsible for that. But I don't think anyone really believes that's the case. After all, we voted to leave, we bear the consequences of it. But from Johnson's point of view, there's a very particular reason for this delay, and of that I'm quite sure. First of all, it is indisputable that he is personally responsible for whatever deal we get. After all, if he decided we were going to compromise now, then we would. I have no doubt that the Cabinet, some of whose members are extrememely anxious to get a deal, would be pleased if he would undertake such a compromise. Gove and Sunak in particular, I'm quite certain, realise the dire consequences of not having any deal in place. So he would undoubtedly get Cabinet support for an arrangement to do a deal. Let's also be blunt. Given that he chose a cabinet of people who are loyal to him, that was the only criteria for appointment, I'm certainly get a cabinet agreement for a deal which was for the exact opposite. Nothing to be agreed with the EU. They are supine and bluntly the most incompetent cabinet probably ever appointed in the history of the UK, and therefore willing to agree to whatever he says. So let's presume that this decision is Johnson's and Johnson's alone, and today he's ducked it. Well, that's what we also know to be typical of Boris Johnson. If anybody was born a prevaricator, he was. But just remember that before deciding to back no deal, he wrote 2 columns for the Telegraph, one of which said, let's have a Brexit, and one of which said, let's not have a Brexit. And he went for Brexit, and we've been stuck with it ever since. This is the man who simply, for his own political purposes, decided to go down a particular route. And he cannot, whatever we think of him, he cannot be unaware of how dire that is going to be and how much personal responsibility he will have for that remaining situation. So what is he doing? Well, first, he's putting off decision. He always does. But secondly, I think much more significantly, he's trying to put off parliamentary scrutiny on this. We know that a deal will cost jobs. We know that there's discussion of £8 to £10 billion already being spent to support businesses that would be impacted by a no deal, and frankly, who will probably be impacted almost as much by any deal he gets. We know that there could be chaos on the borders. We know that there could be food price increases. We know there could be a threat to life important medicines, people literally not being able to get the drugs that they need to maintain their well-being. We know that there is a potential risk of there being electricity shortages, for example. We know that the threat to Northern Ireland is enormous. And we've even had a commissioner of the Metropolitan Police saying that this is a threat to national security. Add all that up, and this is a complete and outright potential disaster. And I don't think there's very much difference whichever way we go, deal or no deal, frankly, because the arrangements are still going to be dire. So he knows that he is heading the country towards a disaster. He also knows that Parliament only sits until next Friday, after which it goes into Christmas recess and remains in recess until the deal should happen on the 31st of December. He's therefore hoping, I believe, to literally let these talks go down through time until he can no longer have to face Keir Starmer over the dispatch box and what I think Starmer should be doing. What do I think Starmer should be doing? Well, bluntly, I think he should be calling a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister. Why? Because we do have no confidence, I think, in the Prime Minister in this country at large. Of course, there are people who still believe in Brexit. I don't understand why. I think it's a bit like believing in Father Christmas, hoping against hope that somehow there is this fantasy figure who will bring us well-being and goodness and presence beyond means, through which mechanism we don't know. But nonetheless, those people still exist. But in the real world, where people frankly have thought the issues through, it's very hard to imagine why anyone still believes in Brexit. It is Starmer's job to oppose. He should call out the Prime Minister and say his party has no faith as the opposition in his actions. Now, of course, he'll lose that vote. Of course, the Conservatives will vote for it. But why then call it? To make the Conservatives vote for Brexit. To make Conservative MPs own this policy, to ensure that when they stand for re-election and there has been a disaster, they can't stand and wring their hands and say, well, it wasn't my fault, I didn't vote for the final deal because Parliament never had a chance to do so. Starmer has the chance to put them and their party and the Prime Minister on the line by making them vote for whatever he decides. If they vote for Johnson, then they vote for his deal, whatever it is. Labour could oppose that. I have no doubt that all the other parties would line up to oppose that. He would still win, but the point is, that is, he as in Johnson would still win, but the point is, Parliament has to make the Conservatives accountable for the absolute disaster they're bringing our way. And if Starmer does that, I believe he will have given himself the opportunity to say, we oppose this, they're responsible for this mess. Don't talk about anyone else having accountability for it. It's Johnson's alone. Those who kept him in power delivered this outcome. This week, I sincerely hope that the Labour Party stands up and opposes and brings a motion of no confidence in the government for the chaos that is coming our way, takes the opportunity that still exists to have that debate, and even if it loses, forever has it on record, they were in opposition to what is to happen. And I hope all the other parties line up with them to support this, because they too can then say, this is not our mess, and we have the foundations for moving on and building afresh, which is what we're going to need. Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, I'm pleased. If you want to see other videos like this, there are links below this screen. If you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter as well, @RichardJMurphy. Look at my blog, Tax Research UK. And if you'd like to donate, because this video series is being largely paid for by donations, there is a donations button on every single post on my blog. Thanks a lot.